My name is Joe Loda. Let me give you a little bit of biographical background about me and then talk about my platform. I was born in the Bronx. My father became a New York City cop. His father was a New York City fireman. My other grandfather, my mother's dad, he was a New York City taxi cab driver. So New York City has been in my blood right from the very, very beginning. About a year ago, people think I started to run because of what happened with Sandy. That's not true. It was actually last August when I thought seriously about running for mayor. I thought of the people who were running for mayor at the time. Sal wasn't in the race at that time, but I thought of the people who were running for mayor, and I did not think that they had the experience or the wherewithal to run for mayor. So I decided to jump in. This is my first time running for elective office. A little bit of my public background. I also was the first one in my family to go to college. I did so on a PBA scholarship and a lot of student loans. Came to Wall Street, where I financed low and moderate income housing and infrastructure projects for state and local governments all around the United States. Rudy Giuliani was elected in '94. He asked me to come into his administration. I became his budget director in the first term, and then I was his deputy mayor for operations in his second term. And I couldn't wait to get back to the private sector. In 2011, Governor Cuomo asked me if I would consider becoming the chairman and CEO of the MTA, and I jumped at the chance of doing that. Because I know, like all New Yorkers, I know how bad the MTA can be at times, but I also know how important it is for our transportation needs. 5.5 million people take the subways every single day, and I wanted to make it a better organization, a better ride for all of our customers. So as I run for mayor, here's what I talk about all the time. I want to make sure that as mayor, I help expand the economy. We need to diversify the economy. We need to make sure that we have more private sector jobs. We've got to get the government out of the way of small businesses who are feeling the pressure from the government about increasing fees and increasing fines. In fact, one of the other areas we have to look at as well is what are we doing with property taxes. Property tax assessments have gone up from 2002 until this year, 220%. There seems to be something wrong with the system where the assessed values are going up so much more significantly than market values. And we really have to get that under control because it's affecting the middle class significantly. The second issue I always talk about is our public school system. It's better, but it's got a long, long way to go. I want to be the mayor who reforms it so that the children who go to the public school system, the 1.1 million children who go to the public school systems, get the best possible education, a core, common body of knowledge that they need so that they can survive in the 21st century. And then finally, there's always quality of life, and it's something I will focus on every single day. First area of quality of life to me, though, is affordability. We run the risk of running the middle class out of New York City because of the cost going up. I mentioned property taxes, there's water bills, there's all kinds of expenses that are going on. And I think as mayor, what I can do about it is, one, have an affordable housing program that can build more affordable housing in the city, but what I can do directly is get the cost of the city of New York under control. I don't believe we have a revenue problem in the city. We have a spending problem in the city. Our expenses have grown, they've doubled in the last 11 and a half years. They've grown 56% over the rate of inflation. You get the growth of government under control, you can get the growth of taxes under control. They're directly linked together. And finally, public safety. There is no doubt in my mind that as mayor, I will support the police department and give them the resources they need to get the job done. I do not want to be the mayor when crime starts to rise. That's the last thing in the world I want. In fact, I would love to see not crime stay where it is. I want to see it fall and continue to fall. Because everything great that's happened over the last 20 years in this city has started with a new policing approach and the reduction in crime. We now have people living in all parts of the city that we never thought they'd live in before because we've eliminated the fear that we used to have all throughout the city of New York. So I guess I'm over my 3 minutes this time. I would love to listen to your questions and definitely answer them. So thank you.
Mr. Loda, you mentioned the importance of improving the quality of the public schools. I don't think anybody here would disagree with that. Do you think that it would benefit the public schools and also those attending other schools if students had a choice as to which school to go to?
Yeah, I do. I do believe in choice on a lot of levels and a lot of different subjects. But let me talk about specifically the concerns of this community and other Jewish communities throughout the city of New York. There was a time when the mayor was concerned, prior mayor, was concerned so much about the city of New York that when it came to public health, school nurses were paid for by the city. They were assigned to all yeshivas and parochial schools. Public health is exactly that, public health, and it shouldn't be limited to just the public schools. And I think that the city should be helping many schools have that. The second issue is public safety. I actually believe that the public safety for all of our private schools, private, parochial, yeshivas, the city needs to participate in that public safety. Because if something goes wrong in a neighborhood, if something goes wrong in a different school, it's going to be the NYPD that gets involved without any doubt. They should be involved up front in the planning and the coordination and the day-to-day security. When it comes to choice, on the issue of choice, yes, I can go talk about vouchers all I want. I've been a big proponent of vouchers now for almost 20 years. I'm smart enough to know that it's not going to happen in Albany, but here's what I can tell you. There was a bill passed by the New York State Senate that provided a tax credit for people who sent their children to other than public schools. I supported that bill. It passed the State Senate. It was not brought to the floor for consideration by the Assembly, and I would encourage you to talk to the Assembly Speaker. Bring it to the floor. It will pass, and you will be able to get a tax credit for the tuition, the very high tuition that you pay for your children.
Thank you. Okay, we appreciate your comments. Liz, any other quick questions? Anyone else have? Yeah, go ahead.
Now, I noticed the specificity of your order in terms of the importance of issues. The last was the crime issue, safety. I can tell you as a contractor working in New York City since 85, so whatever that is, 28, 29 years. I've been to all neighborhoods of the city, and it's amazing that the effect that crime has, or the safety issue has, on quality of life, that the vibrance of the communities that have perked up because the crime has come down. So I was just a little concerned that it was number 5 instead of number 1 or 2.
The order is not a prioritization. I know what mayors don't work on one thing at a time. You work on multiple things at a time. And I actually think all 3 of those are going to have the highest possible priority. I will appoint a chancellor. I will appoint, if Ray Kelly does not want to stay, I will appoint a police commissioner who will make sure that crime is reduced. Yeah, there's not one subject that you can prioritize them on any given day. My life as deputy mayor was trying to juggle 6 things at once, all at the same time. The mayor had even more than that on his plate, and he assigned them to various different people. I will do that the same. Please, I understand. I can't talk about 5 things all at once. I have to put them in some level of order. But that order is not a prioritization. The order is just the flow of the conversation. I like to end on public safety. But every day I will start on public safety.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As many of you know, that I've been very, very close to the Jewish community for the last, not 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, almost 30 years. I've worked with a lot of rabbis. I've worked with Rabbi Schneier. I'm on his board for 28 years. I've lit the menorah in Central Park South with Rabbi Butman for 25 years. We helped build a library with Rabbi Grossman and McDowell Orr. I worked with Rabbi Metzger and solving certain issues in Jerusalem. I was the highest ranking layperson in the Greek Orthodox Church for many years. So I worked on international issues and international issues. I also worked very, very closely with bringing together the Catholics, the Orthodox Christians, as well as the Jewish community, because we believe through religion we can bring everybody together worldwide. And many of you know that, and I look forward to doing that in the future. We are fighting for the soul of New York City. We all love New York. I made a ton of money in New York. I'm not hiding from doing well. My family grew up well. My kids did well. My daughter married the son and grandson of an ex-president, President Nixon. And what I want is what's best for New York City. So we have questions. I have a problem with some of the Democratic people that are running, that New York City has a chance of going backwards. backwards to where we were in the 1980s, where our elderly were scared to walk around, where our city was just out of control, And we certainly don't want to go back to those days. I have stood up and I have said that January 3rd, when I take over as mayor, my number one priority is to keep our streets safe. And I am one of the only ones from the very beginning, I didn't flip-flop on this one, that supported Ray Kelly, that I believe we want Ray Kelly to stay to keep our city safe. And that's a priority. I've also said that on January 3rd, when we take over, that I'm going to freeze taxes because taxes are too high. And that includes all these fees and permit fees and water bills and all this, you know. I was going to use a Jewish word, so but that's, you know, and I tell my friends, whom do you trust not to raise your taxes? And you know, when I say something, people that know me a long time, that's what I'm going to do. In addition, the Republicans have a problem. They have to nominate somebody that has the capability and the ability to win November 5th. Now, money, we're not short money, guys. You know, I've spent already $6 million for the primary. I'll spend what I have to do November 5th. So we have the ability to get our message across, the ability to use common sense. Everybody that knows me for the last 30, 40 years knows I'm a common sense individual and I do the right things. One of the union presidents that deals with my company for 20 years said in the Wall Street Journal, you know what he said? John is tough, but he's fair. And that's what I stand for. You know, anybody can be tough, but who has a heart? I have a heart. I'm tough, fair, and have a heart. Thank you for inviting me this morning.
Safety is obviously something that's on the mind of all of us, and our community is especially interested to see how we can go about improving that. How would you, as mayor?
I missed the first words of your sentence.
Public safety,
yes.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
How would you go about either overturning or trying to skirt around the decisions by Judge Shindlin and the decisions by the city council with respect to stop and frisk and similar measures?
Well, I have, so all my life I've had many ways to do that. Number one, with the stop and frisk law, that I've always said that we have to be technologically more productive and go into the 21st century. First of all, early technology. Why are we not, instead of frisking people, why are we not using what they use in the airports? Metal detectors. I mean, it's simple. I mean, I just don't understand it. That way nobody can accuse you of frisking anybody. Number two, there's a 21st century technology coming where you could stand 10 feet away from the person, scan him, and you could tell if he's carrying a gun. But that technology is about a year and a half away. So how do we bridge the gap? You know, and I think I will fight hard. I will keep Ray Kelly. I will fight hard to, and I'll continue the lawsuit that Mayor Bloomberg has started. And I'm fighting for your safety. Who else is going to keep us safe? And who has the courage to fight hard and put, remember what I said publicly, my size 13 shoe down. And I'll be there. Thank you. Next.
Any other questions?
Cindy.
John, didn't you send your kids to parochial school?
Fine.
Did you send your kids to parochial school?
Yes.
Can you talk about your feelings about parochial school?
Well, I believe the yeshivas, and I believe the Catholic schools are doing a much better job than our public school system.
I was in favor of tax credits for yeshiva schools, that they're a very important part of the landscape of our education in New York City, and I would support that in any way possible that I could as mayor. Thank you. You know, in the mid-'80s, Ed Koch said I was doing a mitzvah, and to be honest with you, in those days I didn't know what a mitzvah was. But a woman had died in Grand Central Terminal of starvation. She literally had died. She starved to death in the richest country, the richest city in the world. So I went there as a citizen to find out why. And I found like 1,500 homeless people living actually in and around the terminal. And so a friend of mine and I started feeding people there every night at 10 o'clock. I did that for 700 nights in a row. I wasn't married, and believe me, if you go to Grand Central and feed people at 10 o'clock every night, you don't have a social life. But I actually happened to meet my wife, who was a screenwriter from Beverly Hills, doing a story on somebody there, and she and I together got married and started the Ready, Willing, and Able program, and you see the guys in the blue uniforms around the city with the American flag on their sleeve. And the Doe Fund Ready, Willing, and Able program came about as me listening to the folks that I was feeding. What they said was that they appreciated the sandwich, but what they wanted was a room and a job to pay for it, a room and a job to pay for it. So I became convinced that they wanted to work. So, you know, I was a pain in Koch's posterior as an advocate for the homeless. And he said, what do you want? Let's give him what he wants. He'll fail, and then we won't have to listen to him anymore. I said, hey, that's great. Well, we were an overnight success, and since 1990, we've done $750 million in revenue. We put over $250 million into the pockets of the homeless folks that we've helped, mostly formerly incarcerated men coming home from prison that need an opportunity. Now, what does that mean in this campaign? This campaign is about a real clear choice for the future of our city. And I see here the future leadership of the city of New York, and I congratulate them and you for that. But for my 2 cents, here's the clear choice that we have as a city. And it goes with the top thing here, taxes too high. All right. So I have, for these past 25 years, worked with the hardest to serve people in our city to help get employment for them, and they can get jobs, even with all these barriers to employment. We've always paid above the minimum wage, and they get jobs above $11 and change when they graduate from our program. We have now a choice to make, a clear choice, between the entitlement society, and the opportunity society. A society that takes all of the taxes that we can possibly put our hands on and redistributes that wealth to other people, or we honor the American dream and the economic ladder that has upward mobility with people starting at the bottom and climbing that ladder. Now, they want to talk about income equality. They want all income to be equal. That's not where we are as a country. That isn't why I came to New York City 45 years ago. I didn't come here to get Section 8 housing or to wait to be on the dole or to get a handout. I came here because this is a city of opportunity, in a country of opportunity, where the sky's the limit. We have an 8.4% unemployment rate in our city. In the Bronx, it's above 14%. For men of color, it starts to get to 30%. For these disconnected youth, it's off of the charts. But how are we going to solve that problem? By taking your money and giving it to people, or giving them an opportunity to work? Okay? You elect me mayor, it'll be the latter. They'll work. Because they want to work. And I've proven that they want to work. We just have to invest in these high crime areas and not stop talking about stop, question, and frisk as if that is the problem. The problem is the underlying economics of these high crime areas, where we have to invest and we have to provide education, opportunity, careers, technical training, and move people to jobs. Now, it's really simple, because you see on the television the leading Democratic candidate saying, tax the rich, tax the rich. Well, that's division, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. That's division. We don't want that. We want something that brings our city together. And all of us working together, we can do that. I think you have the point. Thank you so much for inviting me today. And I look forward to being your mayor, and I would like your vote. Thank you.